Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Shawn Tepper-Levine. I am a seeker. I love to explore consciousness and existence beyond our five senses. I'm intrigued and fascinated with nature and the intelligence behind creation. I am also a scientist, a physician. I practice traditional osteopathy and functional medicine, as Maureen pointed out. Marianne pointed out. Integrating these two sides of myself, although challenging at times, has been one of the greatest joys of my life. As an osteopath by profession, and really by way of life, I've always been more intrigued with what is in and how to access our innate drugstore rather than what is in the drugstore down the street. Andrew Taylor Still, the founder of osteopathy, in his words, said humans are the perfect image of a perfect God, designed to be healthy with God's drugstore within. His teachings were all about removing the obstacles in the body so the medicine inherently within us can get to where it is needed. Dr. William Garner Sutherland, the founder of cranial osteopathy, described an unerring potency within the fluids of the body. When tapped into, it has a therapeutic intelligence that is much wiser than our minds. All my work is about connecting with the potency within my patients, and through that process, teaching them how to connect with the health that lives inside of them. I truly believe in the health at the core of each one of us, and osteopathy is one way to access that health. Today, we will discuss another way to access the health within us and to take ownership of the perfection we are meant to be. Today, we will talk about neuroplasticity. There are four main components that nourish our body: the foods we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, and the thoughts we think. So one of the goals of Supper's program is to teach mindful eating and about the healing potential of the foods that we eat. Well, everything we put into our body has an effect on us. And as you can see, I broke this down into four components. Today, we're going to focus on the thoughts we think. We will learn about the science behind how our thoughts and emotions can hijack us from the health with a capital H. Then we'll learn about the science behind this, and then we will talk about the beauty of neuroplasticity and how we can use our thoughts to change and the science behind this. I will give you some tools to start the process of getting out of the way and to break your own hardwired programming. And at the end, I will have a list of resources for you. So this is one of my favorite quotes from Rumi. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to find and seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. So many times we are in the way of our own potential, or love for that matter, via our thoughts and programmed beliefs. There are many paths to the top of the mountain, many programs and exercises to rewire your brain. From all of my experience in life, with osteopathy and with years of studying and practicing neuroplasticity, I found the top of the mountain is always the same. It is the health within us with a capital H. Different teachers and schools of thought have different words or language to describe this, maybe oneness, love, chi, God, the divine, potency. I think it's all the same. And the key is that there's wisdom. There is a wisdom that is much wiser than our minds that we can surrender to. And once you experience it, you just know it, because in that place, there is no room for thought, and all you feel is oneness. All you feel is love. So the thoughts we think. Our thoughts influence our health. Negative thoughts and attitudes promote a stress response. Chronic negative thinking can become a habit. A prolonged stress response leads to dis-ease. We can change our thoughts and reverse dis-ease through the mechanism of neuroplasticity. Dr. Michael Merzenich, a professor at UCSF in neuroscience, says that brain exercises may be as useful as drugs to reverse diseases as severe as schizophrenia, that plasticity exists from cradle to the grave, and that radical improvements in cognitive functioning, how we learn, think, perceive, and remember, are possible even in the elderly. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions are all influenced by each other. The thing is, our mind doesn't know the difference between the present and past experiences. So if you keep running through a past experience over and over in your mind, your body will respond as if it is happening right now. It will produce all the hormones and neurotransmitters that feeling and thought triggers in you, and it will likely you will keep repeating the same action in response to these thoughts and emotions. Eventually, this becomes a hardwired program in your brain. In one sense, you can actually call it a brain injury. Here's an example of a stress response feedback loop. You might have a thought like, nobody likes me, or I'm not good enough. And then the feeling that gets triggered is sadness or shame. Some body sensations that might come up would be tension, heart palpitations, or exhaustion. And then you behave a certain way in response to this, like avoidance, withdrawal, or self-medicating. But humans express a full spectrum of emotions. And this is normal. Please, I'm not asking you to suppress, repress, bypass, or bury your emotions. The problem arises is when we get stuck in an emotion, when we get stuck in the habit of an emotion. And the key is to learn how to move through our emotions fluidly. With each emotion, there's a biochemical release and a physical response in the body. With negative emotions, you are stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, as you see on the left-hand side, which is geared for fight or flight. The positive emotions on the right-hand side stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, and this is geared for rest and recovery. The fight or flight stress response is a normal, healthy response in acute situation. So let's say you're being chased by a mountain lion. This would be an appropriate response. Feeling the pressure of having to meet a deadline, or facing the news of a loved one who's acutely ill, or when you're watching a scary movie. This is exactly what is supposed to happen at this point in time. The problem arises when this acute response continues and it becomes chronic. So prolonged stress response becomes maladaptive and it gets hardwired into our brain. And it wreaks havoc on our whole neuroendocrine immune system, the results of which can lead to chronic inflammation and pain, immune suppression and illness, and hormonal imbalances that can affect energy, fertility, digestion, and metabolism. So some key phrases like central nervous system facilitation, post-traumatic stress disorder, sympathetic overtone, brain injury. These are all terms to describe a maladaptive stress response. Some predisposing factors for getting stuck in a chronic maladaptive stress response might be birth trauma, early childhood stress or trauma. So those first 7 years of life are really your formative years. And when you're under stress, or you have a traumatic experience, especially a repetitive one during those first 7 years of life, it can really set the tone for the nervous system. So repetitive stressors or traumas, traumatic brain injuries, hardwiring programs in your brain from habitual negative thinking and reactivity, and emotional addictions. Yes, we become addicted to our emotions. They are familiar ways of being. When we deviate from the familiar, it can be uncomfortable because it is an unknown feeling. So please remember this when you're trying to reprogram your emotional addiction. At first, there might be a part of you that will strongly resist the change. So knowing this ahead of time that I warned you, it is helpful so that you can name this resistance when it shows up and choose not to pay attention to it. Dr. Norman Deutsch, a neuroscientist, he talked about 5 stages of neuroplastic healing. First is the repair of the healthy nerve cells through eliminating toxins and good nutrition. I'm not going to get into the details of this today, but maybe we'll have another lecture on that in the future. Second is neuromodulation, which is balancing the central nervous system by quieting this overactive sympathetic nervous system and stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. Third is neurorelaxation. So in a relaxed state, the brain is available for learning and able to receive new information. And that's really important. So when you're in that fight or flight response, it is not a time for learning. You can't receive information when you're stressed. Neurostimulation of nerve cells. Stimulating nerve cells through repetition of sensory, mental, or physical exercises. And again, this is another key thing to remember. When you want to change a pattern, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And fifth is neural differentiation. So when the above are accomplished, the brain can integrate sensory experiences then in a healthy way. So as you can see in this slide, I don't know if my cursor can you visualize my cursor? Okay, good. So as you can see here, the vagus nerve that exits from the cranium is the main parasympathetic nerve that innervates most of the organs in your body. And so the parasympathetic nervous system is important for keeping the body working efficiently, and it counterbalances the activity initiated by the sympathetic nervous system. It restores the body to a state of calm, therefore maintaining homeostasis, and it dominates the sympathetic nervous system. So one of the key points here for me as a cranial osteopath is that this vagus nerve exits through a small foramen or hole in the base of the head. And it's one of the key areas that I look at in all my patients to free up. So this nerve, along with the others that exit the base of the head, are functioning freely and optimally. And it does help to balance the nervous system. You can improve parasympathetic tone yourself by stimulating your own vagus nerve. Some techniques for that would be exercising, deep, slow breathing, meditation, singing, humming, chanting, laughing, yoga, gargling, cold showers, or just splashing your face with cold water. So these are ways, if you're having a panic attack or you're having a really stressful moment that you're finding it difficult to get yourself out of, start humming, start some deep, slow breathing, or jump in a cold, icy shower. It's one way to break that sympathetic tone and put yourself into more of a parasympathetic calming state. Another way to balance out an overactive sympathetic nervous system is with good feelings. So there's different chemicals that are released when you are experiencing something joyful. So dopamine is the reward chemical. And so celebrate when you achieve something and really allow your body to experience the effects of dopamine. Oxytocin, the love hormone. Hug your family members, hug your pets. Hugging and holding hands and playing with babies and playing with your dogs. Great way to release the love hormone. Serotonin, the mood stabilizer. Meditating, running, all kinds of exercise, being outside, feeling the sunshine on your face. That will help you release serotonin on your own. Endorphins, the natural painkiller. Again, laughter, exercise, my favorite, dark chocolate. So these are ways that you can combat stress on your own. There's been many studies done as well to show that the body actually changes its chemistry when you're experiencing happy emotions or positive emotions. Here's one study that showed there was an increase in secretory immunoglobulin A and a decrease in salivary cortisol were induced when there was a pleasant emotion. So secretory immunoglobulin A is our main immunoglobulin that is the main defense in our organs that are lined by mucous membranes. So that is the respiratory tract, the digestive tract, and the urinary tract. So this is one way that we can boost our immune system. Dr. Joe Dispenza repeated this study in a workshop that he did, and where he had 117 test subjects. Secretory immunoglobulin A were measured at the start of his workshop and then measured again 4 days later. During the workshop, test subjects were instructed to move into an elevated emotion like joy, love, gratitude, inspiration for 10 minutes, 3 times a day. And the results were really amazing. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Here we go. You gotta see the results. So 10 minutes, 3 times a day for 4 days. And that secretory IgA increased by 49.5%, and cortisol levels decreased by 16.25%. So with this coronavirus epidemic in our world, there's so much fear and polarization and distrust that is pervasive in the world right now. And this is really harmful. It's probably suppressing our immune systems. Chronic exposure to these feelings are probably making us more susceptible to all illnesses, let alone the coronavirus. So how about making a practice of invoking happy feelings for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, and boost your immune system? See where in your life you can spare 30 minutes a day. How much of your time is spent on social media or watching the news or just worrying about the future or dwelling on the past? And where can you spend some of that time instead focusing on a positive emotion? And I'll teach you some techniques on how you can shift into a positive emotion on your own, even when you're not feeling it at the moment. And look what you can do on your own without taking any supplements, without taking any medications. You can stimulate your own immune system. The ripple effect. Some questions to ask yourself at any point in time, or all the time really, is what vibrational frequency do you want to tune into? What vibrational frequency do you want to transmit? And what is the ripple effect within you and around you from the choice you make at each moment? So there's a collective consciousness in the group of people listening to me speak right now, and within the Suppers Program organization itself. The Suppers Program itself is a structured program that promotes health through educating and supporting the community. One of the collective frequencies of this group here right now tonight is a desire to learn and to inspire health. There's another collective consciousness that we can tune into right now with our awareness. That is one that's been pervasive in the world today, which I mentioned before, the one of fear, polarization, and distrust. Where do you want to put your attention? You have the choice. There's both of those frequencies available to you right now, and the choice is yours. So let's take a moment and play with this. Close your eyes. I'm going to ask each of you to close your eyes and tune into the Suppers Program. Tune in to the energy of the group of people here with us today. Tune into the frequency of inspiration, the desire to learn, the frequency of growth and health. When you tune into this frequency, where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a color, a texture, a sensation? Feel it, sense it, experience it. Breathe it in. Now I'm going to ask you to shift your awareness. Tune into the political world. How does that feel? The polarity, the politicizing of the coronavirus, the fear. Where do you want to spend the majority of your time? Ask yourself, do you want to be a victim of your circumstance or creator of your future? Every minute, you have the choice as to where you want to put your attention. The health with a capital H is always there. Are there other areas in your life that a collective consciousness ripples yumminess into your life, into your being? For me, it's dancing. For my husband, it's live music. For my mom, it's yoga. Where you put your attention affects your whole state of being. Again, you have the choice. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. There'll be more opportunities for experiencing. So the key is balance in your nervous system, a balance between the sympathetics and a balance between the parasympathetic. Sometimes you got to put the gas pedal on the sympathetic and the brake pedal, or sometimes you got to put the brake pedal rather on the sympathetic and put the gas pedal on the parasympathetic to balance them out. And Dr. Bruce Lipton says, you can't be in growth and protection at the same time. And it's always possible to create balance because our brain is neuroplastic. You need to create a relaxed state in order to be receptive, to learn, grow, or change. So take time to nourish stillness within, whether through meditation, contemplation, prayer, spending time in nature. Also practice taking a pause between each activity or transition in the day and throughout the day. Pause between each bite in your meal. Pause before you speak. Pause and listen. Listen to the person speaking to you. Listen to your own body communicating to you. Pause and allow your nervous system time to relax and receive. So now it's time for Neurophysiology 101. We're going to learn a little bit about how the brain communicates. There are neurons or cells in the brain, and they release neurotransmitters that are chemicals that signal a message to neighboring neurons. So neurons in the brain do not touch each other. They communicate through the release of chemical messengers. And these chemical messengers are made up of substrates that we supply from our nutritional intake. And they are stored in vesicles and are released when signaled. And then there are neural networks, which are teams of community of neurons that fire together. And neuroplasticity is the ability of the neural network to change through growth and reorganization. Neuroplasticity is not a new idea. Donald Hebb was a neurophysiologist who coined the phrase neurons that fire together, wire together in 1949. This describes how pathways in the brain are formed and reinforced through repetition. So most people focus, for some reason, on stories of the past and fears of the future. And they hardwire these repetitive programs into the brain and release chemicals associated with these emotions and create dis-ease. Well, what would happen if we focused on love all day? Might actually reverse dis-ease. So building cerebral architecture requires learning through making new synaptic connections, remembering or repetition. This maintains and sustains these new connections. The more meaning behind a synaptic connection, the more the neurons will fire together and wire together. An example would be attaching an emotion to a thought will bring more meaning to that thought and create a stronger synaptic connection. Another example would be after listening to this lecture or webinar, put some of it into practice. So you've heard it, so it's come in through your auditory processing, and then you practice it, and that will create more neurons firing together and therefore wiring together. And this is a stronger way to learn, a stronger way to build new synaptic connections. And then repeat it over and over again. And that's how it becomes a new neural connection. And then that neural connection can override some of the old programming in your brain. When we wire the brain differently, we are literally changing our minds. All right, so where do we begin? First, bring conscious awareness to your pattern. What is going on in your mind? What are you feeling in your body? How are you reacting? What emotion is arising? If you don't like the experience, then choose to change. Literally say stop or change. And sometimes say it out loud so that you can hear it. So you say it, you think it, you say it, and you hear it. And that's 3 ways that your body is getting that message. That's how you start to change behavior. You bring awareness, you choose to change. Say it out loud. It's helpful to identify and become familiar with your feelings. In the beginning, it might be a little difficult. So having a list of feelings that you can start becoming familiar with will be helpful, and something I suggest. It's very easy to make excuses for not wanting to change. You know, I feel like you've been stuck for so long and you can't do it and it's never going to happen and it's just too much work. Yes, it's work. It is commitment. But we can change our life as fast as we can change our beliefs. And since our beliefs can change instantly, we can actually change our lives instantly. From Bruce Lipton. It's easy. It's not hard to release the knot in the pit of your stomach. Just focus on something that makes you smile. Or use the principle of mirror neurons, which are neurons that fire both when an individual performs an action and when an individual sees or hears another perform a similar action. Let's try that right now. See how easy it can be to change your state of being. As our feelings change, this mixture of peptides travels throughout your body and your brain, and they're literally changing the chemistry in every cell in your body. Dr. Candace Pert. So make a choice. Your thoughts affect your emotions affect your decisions, and your decisions affect your life. Change your personality and change your personal reality. Joe Dispenza. How? Bring awareness. Again, we'll review. Bring awareness to a negative, repetitive behavior and or thought. Make a conscious decision to change and literally say change. And if there's too many people around, say it inside. If no one's there, say it out loud. Hear it. Create a new thought and attach a positive emotion to replace the old one. And sometimes I find it helpful when I search, if I'm in just a place where I'm not feeling a positive emotion at all, I'll think of a past memory that I felt a positive emotion, and I can tap into that emotion instantaneously. Or if I need extra help, use the mirror neuron principle and put on a funny video. Baby videos are awesome. The pet videos or animal videos, there's so many great ones. Just look up on YouTube. It'll shift and you will have a positive emotion to latch onto. Catch yourself and choose to change whenever you repeat your old pattern by using your new thought and positive emotion. And this might have to take place throughout the day in the beginning as you're changing a pattern that you're working on. Practicing in a state of calm, like in meditation, will promote receptivity to change. So having a practice where you're in a state of calm, like meditation, contemplation, prayer, you could do walking meditations or just spending time in nature where you're in that place of receptivity. Those are the places where you start, where it's easier to become aware of what is going on inside of you. And that is the time where you can really see closely what your pattern is. And once you become aware, then you can start to choose to make the change. Your mind is more comfortable with the familiar. So your will has to be stronger than your mind. And remember that. The mind will try to trick you to stay put and not change. And you've got to find that will, that bulldog determinacy inside of you to keep going, keep working at it, because there is nothing like that expansive feeling of oneness, that beautiful feeling of love. And it's in that place that the healing takes place, that the neurochemistry starts to shift. And you can do it. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be sitting in meditation for hours. Everybody could do it. You just have to commit and put it into a practice. And make it fun. Make it a game that you play with yourself. And then, of course, there's repetition, repetition, repetition. Some tips that at least I have found useful over the years. When you begin to fire new thought, there are networks of neurons that are wired together from years of practice that you are working to overcome. So be patient with yourself. You've probably been a certain way your whole entire life, and now all of a sudden you want to change. It may not happen overnight. It could. Healing can happen in a split second, but if it doesn't, just be patient with yourself. Persistence, especially when you feel resistance. Just keep going. Don't stop. When you feel that resistance, name it. That's resistance. I know what that is. I see you. But I'm not going to pay attention to you. Be inspired by mirror neurons. We just saw how easy that can happen. Sometimes you gotta fake it till you make it. And an easy way to do that is literally smile. Just smile. Even if you don't feel like smile. The act of smiling triggers certain muscles to fire, and those muscles trigger certain neurotransmitters and hormones to get released. And those hormones are actually the positive hormones. So just put on a smile. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Fake it till you make it. And practice daily, even better, several times a day. Make it fun. And of course, laugh at yourself. We're funny, we're human beings. And it is comical sometimes how we get stuck in this repetitive pattern over and over again. Even though it is not good for us, we still keep doing it. I mean, why? Why are we doing it? It's ridiculous. So if you really take a step out and look at yourself, you can see how comical we really are. And sometimes it makes it easier to be with yourself and to own it, and to then kind of just love yourself for who you are. Be gentle and kind and compassionate, and then choose to change. So sometimes when I feel, I keep hitting the click button. All right. Sometimes when I feel stuck in a negative emotion, I play a game with myself. I ask myself, what would it feel like to feel ... So let's try it together. Again, I'm going to ask you to sit back in your seats and close your eyes, and this will be another experience that we will go through together. So close your eyes, sit back in your seat, and center yourselves. Connect with your breath. Again, breathe. Tune in to what you are feeling at this moment. Now ask yourself, What am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? Does it have a certain sensation, a certain texture, a certain quality? And what would it feel like to feel triumphant? Feel into the frequency of the word triumphant. Triumphant. Where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a texture, a sensation, a color? The beautiful thing is that the mind doesn't know the difference between what you imagine and what is really happening. What is a memory or what is happening right now. So use that to your advantage. What images evoke the feeling of being triumphant in your body? Being successful. I did it. Feel it. Feel the sensation and allow the sensation to permeate every cell in your body. Really celebrate triumph, success, winning, achieving. Allow colorful confetti to pour all over you as you're being celebrated, and smile, a big smile. Feel the pride, the joy of this moment of triumph. I did it. I am doing it. I am being triumphant. Smile big, bigger, and let this feeling in. Let this feeling vibrate through every cell in your body. Now take a deep breath in and feel the gratitude for this triumphant moment. Breathe the gratitude in again. And now one more time. Really, a deep breath, and let this feeling of gratitude fill every molecule in your being. Relish in it. Soak it all up. This triumph and this gratitude. Gently open your eyes and take note of how you feel right now. Gratitude is the easiest emotion that I find I can turn to. And one of the most helpful exercises I do is writing in my 5-minute journal, first thing when I wake up and right before I go to bed. And there literally is a journal called the 5-minute journal, and it has prompts that you can answer. So it makes it very easy. And I highly recommend using it, and it'll be in the list of resources at the end of this, which we're getting close to. This really works. Try it, practice it. And the more you create positive feelings, the more positive thoughts you will have. It's a ripple effect. Fill your life with beautiful images, and you will feel beautiful. This is a practice. I encourage you to make it a part of your practice and to learn to get out of the way of the health that is already inside of you. I think the first step into healing is the belief in your own body. Make friends with your body. Listen to what it is telling you. Treat it kindly, feed it well, and love yourself. Here's some resources that I highly recommend. Some wonderful reads like Bruce Lipton, Norman Deutsch, Candace Pert, Rick Hansen. And there's some great experiential programs that you can dive deeper into neuroplasticity. If you're working through an illness or a pattern, or you just want to learn how to become supernatural and create your own reality and your own future, then some programs like Annie Hopper, or any of the workshops offered by Joe Dispenza, and I've worked with both of them in depth, have been very, very helpful, and I highly recommend. And then here at the end is the 5-minute journal. Just a great daily practice that is easy. And what's interesting about the 5-minute journal, when I started doing it, it has some prompts for the day, and it says, what would be 3 things that would make today wonderful? And inevitably now, when I write those 3 things down in the evening, when it says, what are 3 great things that happened today? It's the 3 things that I wrote down in the morning that would make today wonderful. And I'm watching how I'm manifesting this by just putting the energy out there. We all can do this. It is not magic. It is, you're just tapping into a different frequency and you're creating your own reality. Just try it. And I think one of the keys too, that I didn't mention in the slides is, don't look for an outcome. If you're so attached to an outcome, you're not in the moment and you miss the whole point. So the idea is to be in this moment, to open up to the health that is already there, to the love, the vibration of oneness that is already there. And then the magic happens. So try not to be attached to a goal or something that you want to achieve, and just enjoy the experience.
This has been, I think, really timely. And we appreciate you sharing your wisdom and knowledge and laughter and fun with us, and reminding us that that's what it's about. Like, if you can get to those places, you know, when you're feeling the stress the most, you know, just kind of, you can break through, right?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Marian. And thank you everybody for showing up tonight. It was so wonderful to see your faces and to hear what you had to contribute. I really enjoyed it.